we go. Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome back to the end of Planar Crossroads. And welcome back to our first Around the Hearth in over a year. I think it's over a year.
Yeah, it's been at least a year.
Dang. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, we're back. And as Kane put it, currently have a humble overlay for humble returns and beginnings because of, I was trying to work out the tech stuff and it didn't want to communicate this time like it usually does. So I got to fix that. But hopefully before next chat. But, like I said, greetings and salutations. We have myself, and we have Kane, and we have Levi, and we have Black Dragon Gaming, a.k.a. Tommy, and we have Dan Stacy from Avenue Studios, where he uses silly voices and exploding dice to tell a good story with his family.
Oh, nailed it.
Yeah. There we go. But we're not here to talk about just anything. We're here to talk about how to start a game. This was a suggestion put forth, so we're going to go with that one first. And if you have suggestions for future chats and things like that, you can leave them in the comment section below, and we do read all the comments. That is something that we do. So, let's go ahead and do this. So, does anybody want to start on the conversation of how to start a game? Or are we just going to wing it, or what? Okay, King.
I can't. Everybody else is. Nobody speak at once. How to start a game? I suppose I can talk real briefly about like how to get in a group. And that's mostly just about in the pandemic. I suppose that revolves around finding people digitally, which I know sounds intimidating, but is actually quite easy. There is no Tinder for D&D, unfortunately. No one has kickstarted that, but you can go to like the looking for groups on Roll20, and you can make postings on there are a bunch of different Facebook groups and subreddits and stuff. If you go looking for them, you will find them, and you can post there. And I know the idea of hooking up with a bunch of randos to play D&D, it sounds like sort of a crapshoot, but I met Adam and Tommy on a total crapshoot.
And look how we turned out.
Oh God, no! Sorry, don't take that as an endorsement. It's the total crapshoot. Getting together, and we ended up. We've played together for years. I mean, not recently, mind you, but like for years after that initial hookup. And I still talk to Tommy all the time, and we game together when we have time and the means to do so.
Well, Tommy's a big wig, YouTuber now. He's all successful.
Many games. Successful podcaster now, even.
Indeed. With someone else in the chat who acts like we don't game on a semi-regular basis.
Hey, when we have the time and the means, that's what I'm saying.
Fair.
I'm trying not to reveal that we record in batches.
Bum, bum, bum.
Movie magic.
I love you guys.
But yeah, like starting a game, like anybody who tells you can't just like start in a tavern they're incorrect. I understand why they say that to you, but they're not. The thing that they are telling you is wrong. Fight me. You can start a game anywhere. What's important about starting a game is having an interesting, inciting incident and knowing where to take your story from there. If you're going to do anything, I feel like the important thing to do is to figure out what A, your inciting incident is, and B, where the story goes after that. Because your session 0... Oh, I should have talked about the session 0 first. I'm doing this in the improper chronological order.
Bum, bum.
We'll talk about that after then.
Wibbly wobbly
technically, stuff. Yeah, wibbly wobbly time. In Lordran, time is convoluted. It's just mostly important about knowing like where are you going in the next 4 hours, because after that your game's going to be over and you're going to have an entire week to figure out what happens next. And it's not unless you're running pre-written material, a week I think is probably more than enough time to figure out another 4 hours of gobbledy nonsense.
Yep.
But that's. Does anybody else have something to say?
I actually want to build on what you just said. I think an important thing for a lot of people who want to start a game is they have too high of standards for themselves. You would be surprised how much fun gobbly nonsense is. I have ran a campaign that lasted months that was just playing lawn ornaments with magic. Trying to hide from humans and solve issues that the gardener had.
So it's like,
that's amazing.
It's Romeo and Juliet, but better.
One was a gnome with his nice little cute snail. It was a good time.
Like the Zeus game, but wholesome.
Yeah, I'm super into that. I need deets on garden gnome adventures.
Yeah, he was so good at acrobatics he could almost teleport. We had a porcelain fairy who tended to the plants in the greenhouse, so she had plant and nature magic. We had a gargoyle who was also a piggy bank who hoarded money. He stood over the fountain, so when people would throw their money in, he would later on go and pick it up.
My precious.
That's adorable.
Oh, okay. Oh, we also had a, those decorative skeleton cats?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was one of those made out of stone who lived in the graveyard and could speak to the spirits of... Because they had, a pet cemetery. And she could speak to the other pets' ghosts.
Wait, hold on. Spelled with an S or a C. It's important.
Yes?
Dead, buried pets. The idea is whether it was a pretty big area of land owned by pretty rich people, so they could, sneak around different corners and whatnot. I think she was just named Spooky. Oh, she had the collar of, the first owner's cat, so she was, the reincarnation, she was the spirit of that cat possessing the stone statue.
Adorable.
Right, it was just...
How adorable and macabre.
How adorably macabre and also off topic.
Sorry.
And there it is, 5 minutes in, we've wandered.
Hey,
As it was.
that's not the record.
You can do weird stuff and have fun times.
It's not the record for being
don't
off
put too much
topic.
pressure.
This is true. And we recovered in 2 minutes, not 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
God. Well, I suppose I'm talking, so I guess that means Tommy gets to go next. So I echo all of the things everyone is saying. Obviously, session 0 is important. Do the thing. Please do the thing. And, don't be afraid to fail. Somebody I used to play with a long time ago, the way he explained it was to GM Dungeons & Dragons is to get behind the wheel of a vehicle and to start driving. And you might weave a little bit. You might curb check. As long as you don't slam into a wall, you're probably going to get where you're going. Therefore, just kind of keep moving forward. My last year, and I've ranted about this on BDG, and I suppose it's going to come back home to the IOPC. Expectations for the party and the thing you yourself, dear viewer, have brewed up in your head, or if you're playing something pre-written, how that's written. If the expectations are here and they are here, you're going to end up just no connection at all. The immediate example that comes to my mind again is Age of Ashes, the first, second edition adventure, which we were just talking about how the way it's written and what the party is expected to do and what the NPCs are not expected to do, know how to put out a fire in their own town hall, how to form a bucket grenade, or how to do anything other than sit in a burning building and die sad because they don't know how to function, I guess. Gigantic disconnect, real bad, unless, your party, the people who you are running for, see the D&D sphere as, this is a, how do I want to, not necessarily beer and pretzels, but, yeah, I guess beer and pretzels is the best way to say it. Here is the task you need to do. Do the thing. Good. By that same token, I had another experience that was kind of similar that I won't dog on the system as hard, and I won't dog on the adventure because it's been a lot of fun. but I've been GMing a couple of Starfinder games, specifically the Attack of the Swarm adventure path, which is just Starship Troopers. Easy way to say that, right? You just hear our bug.
Which Starship Troopers? Are we talking Highland Starship Troopers, or are we talking like the 90s movie that was not Highland? Yeah. I figured you were talking about the 90s movie.
You can see with the knife in the mage's hand, his somatic components have been disabled. That one. But it starts off like you're on a planet that's going to get eaten by bugs. You've signed up with the army because everyone has signed up with the army. Why put it in your backstory? I don't know. But it gets really, really, really combat intensive, like in the first 20 minutes of actual moving the story forward. And my party knew this is what they'd rolled up for, but they didn't have like that headspace of they were starting in the bottom of the ninth. So when that first encounter hits and no one's ready for it, and like after the first encounter into wave 2 that is coming, and they're already low on resources, haven't managed things a certain way, haven't been in the you're in the army now headspace, there's that big disconnect and everybody goes away not having as good time as they could have, which is why, again, I loop back to the rambling of do a session 0. Talk to your people. But yeah, expectations, probably the big one I could bring up that isn't just like your standard issue. Here's the thing, do this, make a friend on Roll20.
Yeah. Cool beans. Well, Kane, Levi, and Tommy have gone. Dan, you are the other guest, so why don't you go ahead and say your piece, and then Adam will ramble on as Adam does.
All right. Well, I'll just pick up with Tommy leaving off with the session 0, because that's really, I've been very blessed in being able to play with all these people here that I've been playing with for years.
He cheated. He conned his family into it.
I did. I know. They didn't know what they were doing. It's great. But there is that thing. Leave. Yeah. The session 0 of being the game you sit down and play to set those expectations and to figure out where everybody is, especially if you're joining up with a bunch of randos, which can be a great time. And I have done it and it's awesome. But setting the expectations of if you're running the game, what's the feel? What do your players want to? I just ran, it'll be coming on our channel at some point whenever I have time to edit it, but it's a horror game. And I tried to prep the players ahead of time. And these are guys I know really well. And they still were a little shocked when we went into it. Even so.
Like proper horror? Or are we talking like horror like you did that other horror game?
Yes, no, this is supposed to be, I mean, it's us. So we try to be not goofy while we're being horror. But like they were a little shocked. It was also a switch in a system too, which is another thing to talk about, I think. Make sure I was on the same page, because we went from Open Legend, which is very heroic, to we're playing in Cogent now, which is like D6 system, victory levels for wounds, so you die real fast if you get hit. So that I think was a shocker for them too. They handled it well, and I knew I could trust them. But when you're coming in with a new group, having that test session of doing a little combat, seeing where people are comfortable with role playing too, and the online thing is always it's awesome, and it's an amazing tool that we have now. It's not the same as sitting at a table. It's something you also got to work on dealing with, because it's harder to talk over each other online. Like you can handle that at the table with people talking over each other a little bit, but two people start talking online and it can get really awkward. And then everyone's like, you go. You go. So learning to navigate that too, I think is really important, and seeing where that is in the session 0. How your players, how much do they like to RP, talking about that, talking about the setting. Just a lot of communication. I think that's the biggest thing, is making sure you create, as the narrator or the game master, creating a space where people can just talk and feel free to express what's going on. And being okay making mistakes, like everyone said. I am terrible at that. I have my depressive, cathartic weep in the corner after most sessions. Like I did everything wrong. Why, oh, why? And of course, most of the time my players are like, oh, it was awesome. We had so much fun. Or they will say when things go wrong, but I don't know. It's okay to feel like a failure, but just keep going. Don't give up. Keep having fun. Tell some awesome stories.
That's right. So you guys have pretty much covered all of the session 0 and session 1 stuff, which is where you do need to start if you're going to do if you're going to start a game. And I will say before I start into my notes, is that you want to decide if you're going to be playing a one-shot, an adventure, or a full-on campaign, or a quest, an epic quest, because you need to decide that before you get these players to sign up. You're like, oh yeah, we're going to have this game. And they'll be like, oh, okay. And they'll play for a few sessions, and they'll be like, then they're not coming around as much. And it's like, oh, well, did you realize that there's an overarching campaign? There's this great lich, or there's this huge dragon, or there's this stuff that is all the machinations behind. And they were like, well, yeah, but I came to hit with my fighter or blow stuff up with my wizard. You know, that's what I came to play. And then,
so I would just say, because you talked about deciding whether it was a one-shot or a quest or a full-blown campaign, a lot of people make the mistake of believing that a one-shot is going to be less work than a campaign. Wrong. You're wrong. It's not true. I pretty much exclusively run one-shots, and they are so much more work.
What happens? You have, like you're saying, you have a one-shot. Well, you have a campaign. Well, a campaign gets to slow burn build, but a one-shot has to be ready to go all at once.
Yeah, you're basically writing like a filler episode of Supernatural where they like find the mystery and solve the mystery in the same 45-minute block.
Every Stargate episode, basically.
Yes, basically. Whereas with a campaign, your notes for session 1, after everybody has talked to each other and built their characters, your notes for session 1 are basically like the name of the tavern, a list of NPC names, and like who starts the bar fight. And that's the next 4 hours of your life, and you're done.
Very classic way to start. Very classic. So yes,
that's really true.
To build off of what Kane started with there, yes, the one shot's going to be more just as much work. And then he said, it starts off the bar fight. So that gets into where we're going with this. The notes I have say that there are about, and this is just me making something up as far as categorizing, but you have a hot start, a cold start, and a warm start to campaigns. Now, a hot start campaign, that is, and this can be a one-shot, these can be one-shot or any of the three. You got the hot start, which is where you're in combat, or you're in media res. You are starting in the middle of the action, and that offers a lot of success for different reasons than something like a cold start would be, where it's where the PCs don't know each other beforehand and are either completely unconnected or just connected to a couple of each other. And that's the beginning of the game. And this is not as difficult to get the PCs together as you might think. And then there's the warm start, which kind of is in the middle. You have this is where I like to put the grand summons goes out, where there's a quest board that everybody has come to, and you have to have a certain amount of people to safely journey this way or that way, or you're in a caravan or something, and you already know that you're going to be protecting this thing. You already have a shared goal, and you're all on it, and you're all in it, but nothing has happened yet. So there's your warm start. And that's not bad for, especially easing in a new group. A warm start can be really good, or a cold start can be really good. Because the warm start allows you, like with that caravan traveling, you have the ability to say when you feel as the GM that the tempo is right for it, then you can spring on the hot stuff, the battles and the fighting and so on, and all of that comes up, the drama, whatever that drama may be. And then that gives you a lot more control. I do like the cold start. One of my favorite starts to a campaign as a whole was a cold start, and that was, and I told them beforehand, the start to Rise of the Rune Lords and the Swallowtail Festival is a cold start, even though it doesn't seem like that at first, because the PCs don't know each other. They don't have to know each other, I should say. The PCs in the Swallowtail Festival don't actually know each other, and you can have a full hour, sometimes a session of just the stuff going on in the Swallowtail Festival itself. But then you have that inciting incident when it's ready. So it can start off completely cold or warm, and it's a really solid way to start a campaign. And I liked it when it started like that, because you could bring this in anytime. So it feeds both of those. Though the hot start can be very helpful for those that have played games before, that have done stuff inside of the tabletop sphere for a while. A hot start can mix it up for them, because sometimes they get tired of, you all meet in a tavern or an inn or a bar, and so those can be varied up in that way. So anybody else have remarks on hot, cold, or warm starts before I go into the rest of my notes?
Go ahead, King.
Oh no, you can't. Yeah, go.
Okay. One thing you were just making me think of, I have this one-shot murder mystery that I've run at some conventions with college kids back when we did that. And I've had great success with these newbies that have never even played RPG before, and I liked doing, and this is just personal preference, I like doing you knew each other already. So like in the murder mystery, they're a team that's been sent out. They know each other, have trained together, but now they're going on their first mission. And you got to squeeze it in tight. If you're with one shots, you don't have much time, but I usually have them introduce each other and then say, okay, what's a shared memory you guys have or something? And they just let them kind of banter. It's not really RP. It's still them, especially for people who've never played before, but they're imagining together and they're starting to craft a combined story. And it's kind of a warm start for that one. And they talk about it as they're driving up, and then the action starts happening. So that I've really getting people's creative juices flowing, getting the mode for it, especially if you're just diving into something kind of cold, sitting down at a convention to play.
Yep. And it does bring up the idea that a hot start and a cold start, a warm start, those will be dependent, and they kind of lend themselves to different things. It's hard to do a cold start on a one shot. It's harder to do a cold start on a one shot because everybody's got to know everybody. Like, what's the adventure here? I mean, are you going to spend unless you've got all night?
Right,
you got all night.
Who are you? I was just talking with Jake from our team here. The who are you? Let's spend like 20-30 minutes. Like, well, who are you? Who are you?
Yeah.
Let's all sit here. I'm gonna walk away from the table because I'm an edgelord over here.
Oh, yeah. That's so. Everybody likes to do that. Or everybody. I won't say that. Everybody has done that at some point, I would think.
Yes.
Unless they specifically watched out for it.
You got to work it out of your system. Everybody's got to play an edgelord once.
Then realize how not good it is for the table and just put those characters away.
Yeah, they can stay out there in the corner.
Yeah, if you're not going to
table of edgelords,
the table of
stay in the
edgelords
corner until I need a boss for later when I GM.
Yeah, Levi's right. You just have the table of edgelords, and somebody walks over there thinking that they're going to be by themselves, and there's just this whole ring of other edgelords at the table, and they all look at each other.
Euclidean space of dark corners.
Yeah. It's like the end of Planar Crossroads is this interdimensional space, and it has this one corner that never gets light. It's just like, that's
what's
where
that shadowy place? It's where every rogue is. Let them be.
That should be an animated GIF. That should be like one of those D&D animated, Tommy. What is that shadowy place over there? That's where all the rogues go. They're looking around.
Yeah, the paladin is squire off to the other side of the inn. What's that dark place over there? We do not go there.
It's out of our perception range. It's where the evil happens.
Behold, everything the torchlight touches is our kingdom. What about that shadowy corner over there?
Well done, sir.
Yep. I like that. But that's for getting those starts going. So another tip for people wanting to start a game, I think there's different ways you can do it. The Elder Scrolls are very popular, are very well remembered for their "you are a prisoner" start. And I mean, arguably that's a solid start.
It's a good one.
Multiple, you are a prisoner starts.
Yeah, practically all of them. Not all of them, but practically all of them. And then, like we mentioned, the caravan you're traveling with gets attacked. Now, you don't have to necessarily be caravan guards to get involved in the fray of them attacking attacking a caravan, because those guards, they're probably either your level or lower. So some of those those guards aren't even level 1 adventurers. So
Yes. Sorry, I've had a discussion with Austin, one of my players, about guards, because his character always wants to pull guards in. I'm like, they're not PC level.
yeah,
Anyhow.
most of them are. I don't know.
Just make sure the guards
Depends on where
die.
you are.
8 hit points
Fair
and a
enough.
short spear. Here we go. Oh, I'm dead. Oh, good. You got it, boss.
And now they have to train guards for the town or leave it undefended.
Yep, it's their fault. Guards died. They didn't do anything.
Unbelievable.
They mostly deal with petty thievery and drunken brawls.
Yeah. Like most guards.
Worry about giving your guards class levels when your PCs take over a town and declare themselves the new mayors.
I mean,
Probably
that's
will
the scary part. See, that's what happens that's how you get feudal warlords. And then that starts its own campaign. So, there you go. The campaign started one way or another.
I would play that game. I would play feudal warlords D&D.
Feudal warlord simulator.
And it wouldn't be the same
That town
as
over there
Kingmaker.
is mine. Fight me.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the same as Kingmaker, because Kingmaker happens in a wild land. That's like saying, "Hey, King, we don't have to do what you said no more." And then that's like, you could start a whole civil war in that, and it'd be all changed and everything, and then you rewrite stuff like that has happened in real life. So I mean, it could happen in fantasy.
Yeah, I too sometimes my European medieval peasants become Italian mobsters and tell me that they don't like the ways that I do stuff.
That's
And
right.
that's when we take all of their food and we make all of the adults from the other town in our fiefdom kill them so they learn a lesson.
Well, I mean, arguably,
Politics.
that's how we got the Magna Carta. So there you go.
Because we didn't kill the right peasants, and now everyone has rights, and we ruined our feudal system.
Damn.
Oh no.
All right, roll new characters.
Roll new characters.
Yeah.
Civilians revolt
Campaign's
and
off
kill
the
you.
rails. Reroll.
I'm ending the campaign here at level 12. Everybody reroll new characters. Your PCs are part of the rebellion. You're rebelling against your old PCs.
Ba-bum.
Yes.
Oh, that's such a great campaign.
That's actually really good.
Yeah, but then
So something... Oh, sorry.
so if that happens, does that mean that then they have to make a choice once they eventually get up to that level to challenge their old PCs? Do they have do they have nostalgic compunctions about, do I kill him? I like that character.
Does the player have nostalgic compunctions? Absolutely. Does the character have nostalgic? Probably not.
Probably
That
not.
would be
Okay.
weird. Unless
Alternate?
the character you're playing who's part of the rebellion is like the brother of one
yeah.
of the warlords. I mean, being turncoat, if you're going to betray someone in D&D, maybe discuss it with the DM at very least so that it's not a total surprise. But like, if you're going to turncoat on someone, I feel like this is the opportunity to do it.
Okay, alternately, you run a campaign for the first group of people, and when they do that, you plan that as a campaign for another group of people, so that way they won't try and side with their original characters.
And
I've
it's
also
now
heard
a West
people do
Marches
that.
game.
Boom.
Yeah.
I really do like that idea. That lets you build up this kingdom, and then what happens if other PCs come in who are just as powerful as you? How well did you build that character? And what type of moral and other compunctions did you give to that character? Would they think twice about just myrtleizing the whole place, or did they do it diplomatically, or different things like that?
Perhaps we will return to this discussion of dynamic storytelling in another episode.
And it's a good segue. So there's those different things to start in on a campaign. Shipwrecked is a good one. Shipwrecked, and you can pair that with Amnesia if you want to. But Shipwreck's really good. Especially if you want to have some over water stuff, that's real nice.
The Skull and Shackles starts with you being shanghaied into service on a pirate ship. But back to the prisoner thing. Now that I'm thinking about it, both of the Legend of Grimrock games start with you being prisoners. The first one you're thrown into a mountain, and then the second one you're in a transport ship and your shipwrecks.
Mm-hmm.
That can also be a good way to deal with a higher level one shot or something like that, because you can just take all their items away. Sure, you can have whatever you want. Now you got to find it.
Everybody got all their stuff bought, right? For character level 15, that 107,000 gold. Oopsie. Now
help when you played a monk.
Yep. If you suspect your GM of doing that, if he gives you all the stuffs right up front, beware. Better have a class that can go without their equipment.
If you're playing Pathfinder First Edition, play an Unchained Monk, Way the Lifting Hand, Perfect Scholar.
Yeah.
With a shifter race, if you want the claws, I guess.
Yeah. You can have an intelligence of 6, and you're still as good at knowledge checks as the bard. I know, because I rebuilt. No one else is going to get this, but I rebuilt Cashew as one.
Oh no! Oh no!
And he's just real dumb, but he knows everything.
Oh yes, but the Cashew have to face Peanut, his true mortal enemy.
Truly, legumes are the most treacherous of fruits.
All right. But there's those things. A fun thing to do for starting a game is not to be afraid to have your characters connected through whether that's a sibling or orphan, or they grew up in the same orphanage or different things like that, or having, like we talked about, a common summons. Those things are all good for starting off with connections pre-built into a campaign for people. I think the first time that we did a campaign, Kane is the only one that's left of that, and he was playing Ignatius Ferdinand Kaufmann, and so he was
the very same.
Yeah, and he was a alchemist, a mutagenic alchemist, I think, right? Yeah.
And I prestiged into master chemist.
He was basically a drug synthesizer. He was a pharmaceutical type of guy, and he was connected to our rogue, who, the rogue kind of went to him looking for supplies and stuff because he was a drug addict, and the other one was a connection between a cleric who's going to go necromancer, but necromancers are evil in Pathfinder 1e. So we did something. We homebrewed it where there was an order of the rose that served for an order of the black rose that served for Rasma, which allowed souls willing to perform penance in an undead state to help their communities and stuff like that. They would serve their penance there and be able to.
He was a spiritual parole officer.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the bad guy got a hold of him, and so things changed. He's not so benevolent anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He's a holder of one of the essences now. He's a divine anchor. But that's campaign stuff.
But you make a good point about like don't be afraid to have your characters know each other or be to some degree intimately connected. That alchemist that I played in that rogue, that alchemist had been blackmailed by a mob, a gang, and the rogue, on top of being a drug addict who went to him for supplies, was also his gopher between the mob and him. So he would show up to make deliveries to the mob, and then pick up his tip, which was usually just a couple rocks of crack or whatever whatever it happened to be.
Bloodroot, yep.
Yeah.
So those are good ways to start, having them connected, and to do so in a way that makes sense for your world is best. Siblings are good, especially if it's a really deadly campaign. having people connected through an orphanage or sibling or other siblings. I mean, dwarves have how many relatives? And they have a high mortality rate. So you could have a lot of dwarves. Just running around. Which, I mean, if you look back at AD&D and first edition and stuff like that, they had a lot of dwarves and stuff just running around with a bunch of brothers.
They're like little Klingons.
But friendly little Klingons.
Friendly, yes. A little less forehead ridgy and a little more ale at the tavern.
Yeah. So another thing that can be done for when you're doing your campaign, if you want to set up the feel, which is what session 0 and 1 are about. They're for setting up the feel of your campaign. And that's more for what session 1 is, because most of the time in session 0 you're just talking about stuff. Everybody's building their things together, their characters together. But session 1 really helps you set the tone for your campaign. So if you know that you want to have a certain thing for your campaign, a certain feel, you can use narrator clips to help you set up narratively something that the characters may not even see. Like, this is a narrator clip is something not just for you, the GM, to explain something, but it also helps world building that your players know, but that your PCs, the characters, might not know. And that can be beneficial for, like, if you have a clip where you cut away to something that's happening in the capital, and you have this small little clip, you don't do it terribly long, because if you do, then it draws away from the rest of the campaign. But if you have this clip and it starts with the king talking to his advisor, and the advisor turning away and smiling while the king bowed his head low or something like that, and flavor that up all you want, that helps the players know that there's something bigger going on than when you cut to them and they're here escorting this, traveling along with this caravan. In exchange, they're escorting it to the next town as guards for them to be able to have free passage on it. And so
I do really like the what do they call it in television? Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Meanwhile,
the little vignette moments. Connor, who's a friend of mine and for a very long time was my in-person forever GM. Tommy knows who I'm talking about. Did a lot of sort of like these side things. Like, we would finish a session and then we would go home, and we used to all do our between session RP on a forum that we had rented, and he would usually write up like something that was happening with the Dark Lord or some general or whatever we happen to be dealing with at the moment. We would get a little bird's eye view into what they were doing while we were over here being big damn heroes, which it was very engaging and I liked it a lot. And you don't have to do it, especially if you're a new GM. I know that feels like a lot. I'm just saying it's a tool in your box.
Mm-hmm.
Was also going to say this is more specifically for players who are starting in a new campaign, and Tommy's also really good at this, even when he's playing specifically very low charisma characters.
That's me.
When people talk to you in character, I don't know if they're going to do a voice or whatever, don't find an excuse to not engage. I know that, like, it might be sort of the inclination. You're like, I'm playing a grouchy rat who doesn't like to talk to people and is bad at social interactions. But, like, you have to engage with the other people in your party, because if you don't, you're not. This feels mean to say, but you're not contributing.
Yeah. It's what my character would do.
There it is.
But
Yeah, but like, I want to talk to you because I'm also bad at conversations, but like, we need discourse if we're gonna give a crap about each other over the next 20 episodes.
Let's talk about how all our characters don't know how to make breakfast at all. Oh god.
Yeah. And one way to that may be something we talk about another time. Playing X, Y, or Z character in a role play sense. We kind of did that with building and stuff like that, but in a role play sense, how do you play the loner? How do you play the exuberant, happy, cheery one? How do you do that and not end up annoying or uncontributing or different things like that? Because like when you do play the loner, an example for that one might be, and this can help for starting the game as well, because these loner characters can do this. They can see something that they appreciate, maybe during the battle or during an exchange or during the tavern fight that usually inevitably ensues when everybody meets up at the tavern. They like that punch, the way that this other character threw that punch or something like that. And so instead of saying anything, because these may be two stoic characters interacting, they may just come up and set a drink down in front of the other one and kind of sit down and just sip their beer. And that can be a moment between them.
Depending on how low your charisma is, clarify that you are not flirting.
Yep.
Important.
Almost
Are you the
all those
bard?
characters have like a in-universe reason to be hanging out too, right? If you've made the person who, for some reason, has like, here are my social skills. Now I'm playing this character. Let me leave these over here. And now I don't know what to do. Like, there's probably some reason in game that you and 1, 2, 3, 4 are together. So just like lean into that, right?
Yeah. There is a certain amount of suspension of disbelief that is involved in playing a game. So
Which is hard
Find
to
a
manage.
reason to join in.
That line between suspension of disbelief and metagaming, I find I'm often like, here's the line, where do I land?
No.
It's real hard.
But-
God, that's a talk in and of itself. I hope someone is writing these down, taking notes.
No.
we made
I
like
have
6.
notes, but none of them have to do with what we're talking about. I have something here called "Making Dragon Lairs?" ? And it's garbage.
Garbage. Well, we all talked about how we watched some video. Well, not all of us. Some of us talked about how we watched some videos beforehand to kind of get an idea of what we were going to talk about. And one of the ones that I picked up, especially that I liked, especially from WebDM, I liked 2 that they brought up. The first one is you're late for another hook and you get caught up on the way. Like you get
That's good.
bushwhacked on the way
Okay.
or something.
I like that.
And you can have it really turn out well because maybe that other group ended up getting wiped out by whatever adventure they were about to go on. And it was basically first come, first served to that adventure or that bounty hunt or whatever. So they get caught up and you're able to kick off a campaign then or start a game, however long that game goes. And then the other one was, and this one I thought was perfect, especially for a cold start. There's a fork in the road, but the map shows no fork. Which path do you take?
Okay.
Does it matter?
Let's overanalyze the fork in the road for 3
I was gonna
hours.
say yes.
Yep,
How
that's
do we
usually
get
what
out of
happens.
this hole?
God, what's that door? How do we open the door? Swimming? Who does that? Huh.
Yep.
Oh, that's good.
But I like the fork in the road thing because humans love mystery. They like to figure things out. So if you can give even a little bit of mystery inside of your first session, most of the time they'll enjoy it. And the fork in the road means that you as the DM only have to think up 2 things for them to do that session. And they're going to find one or the other.
Well, I'll even throw out. That's absolutely what I would do is make up 2 things, but you could only make up 1 thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I would have made up one thing and figured
All right,
out what the other
I
one was
would have
later.
made up 2 things.
That's-
All these other GMs out there, they're just making up 1 thing.
We're all just really happy that they reprinted Mass Effect and we've been playing looping to the same thing.
It's just a different color piece of paper.
Yeah.
But that was actually a piece of advice because I tend to way over plan. I just anal to detail, and you always end up getting stressed about, for me personally, I should say, I get stressed about that when I'm doing, because it's like clearly we've kind of hinted at it, is the players are never going to do what you expect, and they always mess it up. Messing it up, and I say that in a joyful way of like they take what you have and just make something you could have never imagined. And when you overplan too much, then you're so fixated on where you expected it to go. This goes back to the expectations. You're so expected have those expectations where it goes. You're either going to start trying to railroad and force them into it, or you feel like it's a mess. And I get emotionally out of sorts if I think about that too much. So one of the best advice I heard, I think it was How to Be a Guy from How to Be a Great GM. He said, you had this plan for the players to go west out of the town, and they all decided to go east. And you're like, crap, I don't know what's to the east. I never built that side of the world. And he's like, why don't you just take what was on the west side and put it on the east side now? And I was like light bulb. That's genius. Why didn't I ever think of that? So I don't know. That's something that meant a lot to me.
I don't know if the Lazy GM still has a website or if they changed names or something, but that's probably a great resource for people who are just starting out. There's a bunch of stuff on that website between just like articles and blog posts and just some like actual like some stuff you can buy that is just tips on how to make less work for brain.
And there's so many like go to Google how to start campaign. Here are like 100 bullet points. I bet you like one of them maybe.
I mean, there's 100 of them.
Yeah. And like, I don't know how we made it this far without saying this, but also steal, plagiarize. Did you like this movie? Have they seen this movie?
Yeah, rule 1A of story writing: steal, plagiarism.
It's if it works, if the shoe fits.
I mean, and people like those movies for a reason.
Yeah.
So, well, sometimes they like those movies for a reason. Sometimes they're just following a fad. But that's just me nitpicking about modern cinema. But
easy tiger.
Anyway, one of the final thing we're getting real close. We're past time technically. So one of the final thing I want to bring up is How to Be a Great GM gave a tip to do a kid venture to establish the backstory, the connected backstory for your characters. And then the second session is actually where you start off on the adventure that you're actually on. So doing a kid venture where you're all got half your stats basically or stuff like that, and you just bond over this. And kids are funny because, and I should say humans are funny. If they do something together as kids, even if that person moves away, there'll still be that kind of connection there that they have. So that's a good way to build up a backstory together.
I'm just picturing, I know, because you specified humans, and I was like, well, does it have to be human? Wait a minute. It would be super weird if a bunch of humans grew up together with a dwarf kid, and they're all 17 and they've got like beards and they've physically developed through puberty, and this dwarf kid is 17 and he's still like 2 foot tall, clean as a baby's arse.
That does bring up some interesting things, though. That does.
Waiting for all of his teeth to come in. Yeah.
Okay, so the dwarf kid is the kid that they all protect later on and incites the adventure.
That's actually good. That's real nice. Oh, it's like, I don't know. You guys have probably seen it, that post about how dogs see people and how we're basically elves to them. We're like supernatural creatures that live for a long time, generations.
Yes.
And man, that'll hit you in the feels if you ain't watching it, because it's like, yeah, I could see how that type of perspective would be there. And so for the humans, maybe that's true. Maybe they did grow up with that dwarf kid, and now he hasn't fully matured, but he's getting into trouble now, and they've all grown up, and he feels like they've left him. They don't care about him, because he's still young mentally, and it's like. So he goes off and he tries to adventure too, because they went off and they did stuff and now he's got to go. And then they all get a call. He's missing. And so they put aside whatever differences they've come to as they got older. Maybe they don't even care for each other anymore, but they put aside all that to come and help find, I don't know, whatever.
No, I'm smiling because you're a party of edgelords and you brought them together.
Oh,
yeah, I was, for some reason, I was picturing like Runaway Bride, like one of the girls is getting married and she is like, oh no, little Roderick has gone missing. And she just fucking whips her bouquet into the dirt and takes off in a dead sprint.
Well, honey, where are you going?
I must save the little one.
Yeah.
But actually,
He's
a wedding would be a
45.
reason for all of them to meet up with each other again.
Oh yeah, weddings, funerals,
That'd be a great time for
everyone
to, like,
going to Bilbo Baggins' birthday.
Right, it's perfect.
This is true.
Any event, I guess, works. All right, we've gone on long enough. We're at 50 minutes, and Kane said he was going to leave in 30, so we've detained him as long as
Kept
we can.
me too long in this prison of social convention.
All right. Well, I think that's everything for this time. Do you guys have any announcements or anything like that before we head out?
I could go on forever about all the bajillion things BDG is doing and the podcast I'm doing with Kane. So Kane and I play Iron Gods now.
Boom, boom.
I think it was on this channel. Kane said that you could bring several alchemists to the table and they would all look very different. We
sounds like something he'd say.
We're like 30 just under sessions in, recorded the first dungeon. One day we haven't rested. The podcast is called DDoS the Dragon, and it's with an exclamation point because I insisted on an exclamation point at name creation. So damn it, I'm going to bring it up here. But wherever ye old podcasts and things can be consumed, everybody else involved with that would be mad at me if I didn't say anything. I feel like obviously BDG does way too entirely many things that are plates spinning even now as I have this conversation with my friends about my to-do list that is going and stuff.
Fair enough. We are going to put links to everybody's channel down in here in the section below.
Daniel, you got anything to plug, Danny?
Well, yeah, we're doing stuff, I guess. But we've been connecting with Cogent, so Cogent RPG from Shadowversity and Jazza. So we've done some of that. That'll be coming out soon. We are on podcast now as well, which is awesome. And tomorrow night I'm shooting something with Penny Dragon Games. They make 5e content, so I'm kind of excited for that. We'll see how that playtest material goes. I think those are the big things we're doing right now.
Cool beans.
Bomb Squad goes on, our long-term campaign that'll probably never end. So you guys know how it goes.
Indeed.
Check out their intro. They added it recently this year. I like their new intro.
Yeah, we finally got everybody in there.
It makes a lot more sense with the campaign they're running than the 1940s one that they had. 1930s, 40s one they had going on. So
it's whatever costumes we could find. And
Welcome to our new space adventure. Ignore the intro with Amelia Earhart. That's not important.
She absolutely had a banana as the co-pilot.
all right. Well, thank you for coming to the end of Planar Crossroads. We hope you enjoy. Got the archive series going on right now. Just finished up inking the next Laws of the Multiverse. And yeah. So, thanks for coming in. As always, have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
Bye.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.